Today I'm going to tell you about my personal journey towards wealth. And I'm hoping that along the way, you all can relate and find yourselves aspiring towards wealth as well. And we're going to learn about how, we're going to learn about what the experience has been. And let me tell you, I grew up in a family of educators just like you. So my family values education very highly. My mother was a primary school teacher for many years, and then she moved up to administration, vice principal, and then principal. My grandparents were both lifelong educators. My father has taught at the university level, and my husband's parents are lifelong educators as well. What's that? From Michael, yes. Michael and what school in St. Elizabeth? Monroe. Monroe College, Michael University, UE, all over, the Reynolds. Some of you may know them. Herga and Roy Reynolds. Those are my in-laws, my mother and my father-in-law. So yes, I come from a large line of educators. Now this second photo, my clicker isn't even working again. It stopped work now? Yeah, this was supposed to be a photo of me and my parents when I was growing up, but for some reason it's not showing on the slide. Just to show you, the value that my parents gave to education. I grew up in a small country named Belize. How many of you knew I wasn't Jamaican? Some people know, some people are always like, what, you're not Jamaican? Yeah, I grew up in Belmopan, which is the capital of Belize. And when I was growing up, Belmopan was, and it still is, pretty tiny, population 25,000. The entire population of my country today is about 400,000 people. Now, I would say small island, but Belize is not an island, it's a country. But it's the same type of mentality. Coming from a small country, many times we grow up with a small mindset, a small mentality, that we are limited in the things that we can achieve. Have you ever heard that? You've heard that, right? Not necessarily the case, but even beyond the limitations that we set for ourselves and the things that we have heard about what our potential is, many of us were also raised with a middle-class mindset. And nothing's wrong with a middle-class mindset. So I told you my mom was a lifelong educator. My dad was a public servant, passionate trade unionist until he started his own business in the construction industry. And to this day remains a small business because he doesn't want anything greater. He's happy. He's making enough money to survive, to pay his bills and be comfortable, and he's good. And so the values that I was raised with were work hard and save to figure out how this clicker is going to work with me today. All right, let me just use the... Right. So I was raised with this formula to success. And let me know if this sounds familiar to you. You work hard, you study your book, and you save your money, and then you buy a house, and you're going to be comfortable in life. You're set, you're good to go. You don't need nothing more than that. That sound familiar to anybody? Yeah, that's how we were raised. So my father was the type of person who, every time I said, Dad, can I go out to, hang out with my friends? My dad would say, study your book. If I come singing a song, I'm singing the song and the song sounds good. You know your book like how you know the song? Sounds familiar, right? So this is the work ethic that I was raised with. My dad was also very frugal. Very frugal. You know the other C word, right? If you want $1, you have to ask him for 10. And maybe he will give you the $1. That's the type of person my father was, because everything must be saved. You work hard and you save. You work hard, you get a good job, and in Belize it's preferably with the government, because government jobs, are in demand. When you live in a small country, the employment that the government offers is a large chunk of the employment in the entire country. So you get a good job with the government and you're stable, you save your money, you buy a house. And so I did all of those things. I did what was required of me and what was demanded of me. And so I studied hard in school, bright girl, A, grade 1 CXC maths in third form, hello? And I got a scholarship to the prestigious Fordham University in New York. Now, it's not everybody can get a scholarship to study abroad, full ride scholarship. And I did, the things that you're supposed to do. I studied hard, got on the dean's list, I graduated, I went back home to my country, I got a good job, quote unquote, not for the government, but a job that paid fairly well, compared to what other people were making. And I saved as much as I could save. But guess what happened in between? I got pregnant at 19 years old, just as I was about to go off to study in university. And so life happens in the midst of us making other plans, right? And so I come home, and now I'm a single mom. And I have to make ends meet on a single mom's salary. I have my degree, and I love my job as a journalist, but I don't know if any of you have ever worked in media. It doesn't pay that well. It's prestigious. You get to be on TV. You get to look pretty. Everybody knows your name, but at the end of the day, you're riding the bus home with everybody else. And so I followed the formula that I learned from my parents, the equation that worked for them. Work hard and save, but then for some reason, I couldn't buy the house. It wasn't enough. And do any of you find yourselves in this position? That you find yourself, you work hard, you save all your life, but then it's still not enough to achieve the level of comfort that you want to achieve. Well, I know education officers get paid good. I hear the laughs. I don't know if that means it's because the minister is here. So I achieved all the things. Oh, now I understand what's happening. I keep pressing the wrong button. I'm going backward instead of forward. Anybody know this little clip? This was from my coverage at Tivoli Gardens in 2010 in the pursuit of daughters. It's me dodging gunshot, Let me see if you can catch it. You see it there? Barely flinch, Big journalist. Award-winning. Keep pressing the wrong button. Who laugh? Big journalist, award-winning, but for some reason, I wasn't achieving the goal of being able to buy this house. And this thing that my parents had ingrained in me is the be-all and end-all of being comfortable. And guess what? It is the Belizean dream. It is the Jamaican dream. It is the Caribbean dream. It is the American dream. It is a global dream to be able to want to live or to own the property in which you live. Because it gives you ultimate security. It gives you peace of mind. And this is why this is one of the aspirations that most people around the world have. And I found myself in my mid-30s having this dream elude me. And so I felt like I was a professional success with all the accolades to my name, but a financial failure. Because not only could I not afford to buy the house, I was also in debt. Because I had a car. And when you get a car, what comes with it? Bills. Because you need gas, you need license, you need insurance, you need fitness, you need to service the car. And so when I got my first car loan, I remember going to the bank and them approving me for the loan, and they said, Kalilah, they said, Miss Enriquez, that's before I was married, why don't you get a credit card? And I said, okay. Because that makes sense. I literally had not budgeted for insurance and these other costs. I had the exact money to put the down payment for the car. I wasn't thinking of all the other expenses. So I got the credit card, put the insurance on it, and walked across the street to the Style Savvy boutique. Oh, yes, and I went on a shopping spree, honey. And I said, give me this, that, and that. And I swiped that credit card and swiped that credit card. And when school fee time came for my daughter, what did I do? I swiped that credit card again. And when I needed to service the car, what did I do? Swipe the credit card. And when I feel for something nice, what did I do? I swiped that credit card. And I found myself, like I said, by the time I was in my mid-30s, feeling like a professional success, but a financial failure. Even though I tried to save, and I did save some, it just wasn't enough to give me the level of comfort that I wanted for myself and my family. And what I had to realize is that that wasn't entirely on me. Yes, I was a single mom, and that made things a little bit more challenging. But I also had to realize that the economy had changed significantly from when my parents were young. Because my parents, they were homeowners in their 20s. I'm like, why am I in my 30s and I can't be a homeowner? But 2024 and 2014 are a lot different than 1994 and 1984 in terms of where the economy is. And let's look at some other things that have changed over time. One, a lot of us today are getting married a lot later in life than our parents did, which means that we have less time to combine incomes with a spouse. My mom got married at 19. My grandmother got married at 17. I got married at 35. And many of my friends today, we're now in our early 40s, either are just getting married or still are not married. See a lady back there says, still not married. And this is the reality. Many of us are prolonging our family life because we are investing more time in education and more time in developing our careers. And this gives us less time to combine resources with a spouse. And my mom and dad did it together. It was unfair of me to compare my situation when I was going it alone with their situation when they were able to combine resources. Pensions. Well, you guys work for the government, so y'all good. No? But for the most part, we don't get pensions anymore, especially in the private sector. When my parents were coming of age and young adults, they knew they could work. Most people work their entire life in one job. They retire, they get a pension. Pensions are very, very rare today, except in the public sector. In the private sector, not many companies offer pensions, and so our financial security is a lot less stable than it was 30 years ago. And then when you look at wages, wages have not increased at the same pace that house prices have increased, right? So the house prices went from here to here, but our wages went from here to, oops, not the same rate. And I know Minister Williams, y'all gave a significant wage increase this year. But look what a house reached. It's not enough. And so relative to the cost of a house back in the 90s, let's say it was 30% of your salary would be needed to pay that mortgage. Today, it is a much higher percentage of your salary that is needed to pay that mortgage, which makes it even less attainable today. So what does it take to be comfortable in 2024? Give me a dollar figure. Who can give me a dollar figure? Like, how much money a month would you need to make to be comfortable? $1 million. Anybody else? She said that could work. After tax. Anybody else? We all agree on the million? All right, good crowd. Usually when I ask this question, people come with much smaller numbers. I'm like, let's do the maths. What do we need to be comfortable? And when I say comfortable, many of us say, I don't really need to be rich. I don't need to be wealthy. I just need to be comfortable. But what does it take to be comfortable? Well, these are a list of some of the basic things that you might need to be comfortable. Number one on the list is shelter and security, which is home ownership. You want to be able to live in a home where you're secure, especially in Jamaica. It has to be a nice, safe, secure location. It has to be able to withstand hurricane, and these days, earthquake. So you want to have a stable, secure shelter. And how much that costs if you were to buy? Even if you're to rent is already enough. But if you try to buy somewhere in a uptown community, and nothing even extravagant, not a big mansion, a 3-bedroom townhouse, $60 million. And how much is the mortgage on a $60 million property? Some of you probably know. It's about $500,000. So that's half of your million already, just on item number one. Reliable transportation. You need a car that's not going to break down with you. You need a car that can transport your children to school. And let's say you're not buying this out of pocket, you're not buying it cash, you're taking a loan, and you have your car payments to make every month. Depending on whether you're buying new or used, you're looking anywhere between $50,000 to maybe $80,000 a month on your car payment. How much of the money gone already? Food! Oh my God. Anybody have teenagers? Teenage boys? Oh my God. Every minute I'm hungry. I'm like, did you just eat? I'm hungry again, what? And my little ones are small, and still, every minute they want something to eat. You saw the picture going around with the tomato? $1,000 for one tomato. Inflation post-burial. But food prices are extremely expensive. It is one of the biggest bills in my household. It is the second biggest bill after the mortgage payment, by far. You think JPS bill bad? Try that grocery bill. I do not volunteer to be responsible for groceries because it's a lot. Healthcare, expensive. Education, especially tertiary education, especially if you aspire to send your kids abroad, expensive. Your safety net, which is your insurance, your pension, your retirement plan, expensive. Fun, expensive. And then, of course, you want to be in a position to give. For those of you who are active in your church, you want to tithe, you want to help family, you want to give to charity. All of these things add up. And so the $1 million a month to be just comfortable, we're not talking about driving a Range Rover or living in a mansion. Just to be comfortable, we're looking at a good $1 million a month. Jamaican. Somebody said we need more than that. $12 million a year. Now, when you look at the statistics of what people in Jamaica make or earn, 12 million Jamaican dollars a year puts you among the elite in this country. Which would mean the assumption is, for most people, they would look at somebody earning 12 million and say, that person rich. 12 million? Them wealthy man, them rich. But when you break it down like this, 12 million really is just enough to make you comfortable. So what is the conclusion then You need to be wealthy in order to be comfortable. Don't you? Big facts today in 2024, which means that we need to employ the strategies of the wealthy in order to be comfortable. And so my parents' working class values of work hard and save gives you house and money and comfort is not enough in 2024. And nothing was wrong with those values. I had a wonderful childhood, but today's reality is not the reality of 1994. And the truth that I had to learn, the very hard truth that I had to learn, breaking down the formula, work hard and save equals, let's look at the first part of the equation, the work hard. You can never work your way to wealth. You can never work your way to wealth. Because when you think about it, think about people who work and earn a lot of money. Athletes, entertainers, CEOs of big companies, they earn a lot of money, don't they? And they work hard. But are they wealthy? Somebody say a few. What makes them wealthy, those few? We're going to come to that. I love this room, what a bright, very bright room. The reality is that time is a finite resource. Time is limited. Nobody has unlimited time. And they say, oh, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. But there are only 24 hours in a day. And so no matter what you are charging, let's say you charge $1,000 an hour, that's what your time is worth, $10,000 an hour, there's still only 24 hours in the day. And so there's still a maximum that you can make because your time is a finite resource. And so, I don't know what happened to my other slides. Oh, I know what these were. There were supposed to be some screenshots of famous people who made a lot of money and went broke. And maybe I can show you if I exit the full screen. You can probably see them here. It's not coming up. Anybody know a certain gentleman named Mike Tyson? You know what he's famous for? Boxing, right? Do you remember the time that Mike Tyson bought a tiger? Tigers are expensive animals to feed. You know how much a tiger eats in a single day? It's enough money. And so Mike Tyson is one of these celebrities who acquired a lot of income during his time as heavyweight champion of the world, and then not long after he retired from boxing, went broke. So he earned a lot of money, but the minute he stopped earning the money done, because he did not have a recurring source of revenue to maintain his lifestyle. Another one that you might not know, Michael Jackson. You know Mr. Hee, King of Pop? Oh! Did you know that when Michael Jackson died in 2012, he was $400 million in debt? $400 million in debt. The King of Pop, one of the biggest superstars in history, with an extensive catalog, with intellectual property, and all of these things, professional success, financial failure. He died not just broke, but in debt to the tune of millions of dollars, and his famous Neverland Ranch was on the verge of being sold. Now, from what I understand, his estate has, sorted things out, and the estate is doing fairly well now, but it just goes to show that no matter how much money you accumulate, it does not make you wealthy, because that money is gonna eventually run out. If you depend on trading your time for money is not going to work out for you. Now, let me try zooming this out again. For some reason, the photos aren't showing, which is unfortunate because I wanted you to see them. But coming back to the point I was just making, if all you do is exchange your time for money, then the minute you stop selling your time, you stop earning money. Now, coming back to the other part of the equation, so we already said why work hard doesn't work. The other half doesn't work either. Save. You can never save your way to wealth. So I was taught work hard plus save. Are you good? Work hard doesn't work, save doesn't work. Why doesn't savings alone work? Well, I'm going to give you an example of somebody that I did a consultation with. And this person is the wife of a very famous Caribbean cricketer who is now retired. And this cricketer decided that he wanted to send his child to university in America, or give the child options to go to college anywhere in the world that they wanted to. And so this person invested in a college savings plan when their child was born. You guys know the kind of plan I'm talking about, right? And he paid faithfully into this plan every single month from birth till the child was 18 years old. Now, I didn't ask how much he contributed monthly, but I'm sure it was a decent amount. How much do you think they had in that account when the child turned 18 and was ready for university? Jamaican? We're talking Jamaican. Let's say Jamaican dollars. 2 million? Anybody else? I heard another 2 million. 1 point. Listen, you guys are so brilliant in this room. Every time I do this presentation, the numbers are all over the place, but everybody in here is right on the money. So he got 40,000 EC dollars, which is about 15,000 US, which is about 2.3 million Jamaican dollars. Oh, bright, very, very bright, because of inflation. Now, 15,000 US can't even pay for one semester at my university that I went at Fordham. And I went to Fordham in 2002. And the tuition at the time was $25,000 per semester. And so he was extremely disappointed at the end of the 18 years that this goal, this idea that he had of saving diligently for 18 years from birth, didn't give him the objective that he had anticipated. Because guess what? I moved to this slide too quickly. I was supposed to ask you the question first. The average savings account in Jamaica pays interest of less than 1%. You're not earning any money on interest in the bank. You're trying to save, but then you end up paying more fees than the interest. Because every time you use your card, they charge you GCT plus the fee, the withdrawal fee. Every time you try to, sometimes even when you put in money, they charge you. When you take out money, they charge you. If you use a credit card, they charge you. No matter which way you turn, Makajukyo, as the saying goes. Yet they say you're earning interest. And then the other thing is this little word called inflation. You can tell me what inflation means. What does inflation mean? What is inflation? Simply a rise in the cost of living. Every single year, it goes up. And right now in Jamaica, inflation is around 5% for the year. And we're coming from last year, year before, where inflation was at 11%. So what does that mean for you? What is this tasty little treat? How much did a patty cost when you were growing up? How much? $50? How much is a patty today? $380. I was shocked to find out recently that $500 can't even buy you a patty, a cocoa bread, and a juice. Because the cocoa bread is $150, and the patty is $380, and the juice is another $100. So you need a good $600 change to buy a basic patty, cocoa bread, and juice. And when you're growing up, you could get that easily for $100. Well less than $100. That's inflation. So let's look at something. In our example, I'm going to say, for argument's sake, this patty cost $100 last year. We know it's not $100, but just to make the maths easy, I'm going to say this patty cost $100 last year. Now, with 5% inflation in Jamaica, this patty this year costs $105. That's the effect of inflation. So look at the maths now, when we talk about saving. So let's say we saved $100 in our bank account. We saved $100. We're doing something good, right? Because we're taught that savings is good. Saving is one of the things that we should do, which is true, but it's only the start. So let's say we save $100. And the bank gives us our interest, our 1% interest. Actually, it's less than that, but for argument's sake, let's call it 1%. And so next year, our $100 is worth $101. Yay, we did great, right? But then because of inflation, the thing that cost $100 last year now costs $105. So where are we? We're in the negative. We're in the hole. We just lost $4. We thought we were earning $1, but in reality, if we rely on savings alone, we're losing $4. And depending on what the inflation rate is for the year, it might be more. So when we were at 11% just the other day, we were losing $10. Because the thing we were saving for now got that much more expensive. The goalpost has been moved. And so in today's world, addition is not enough. We have to multiply. I love talking to educators. Know the maths. So going back to the principles, you can never save your way to wealth, and you can never work your way to wealth. Work hard plus save does not equal house and land and car and wealth and comfort and all the things that I thought it was supposed to help me achieve. And so we move to the wealth equation. And I like to call it the new wealth equation, even though it's not new, but it's new to us. Because the wealthy people been knowing this. The people who grew up with money been knowing this. But the people who were raised with the working class values to work hard and get a job, this is new to us. I learned this at the age of 35. I never got this financial education in school or from my community or from my parents. I got this from curiosity and realizing that there had to be another way, that I must have been doing something wrong. So what is the wealth equation? Number one, real estate. From time was time, real estate has always been a measure of wealth. From, you go back to the Tainos and the Africans and all the people in the tribes, even in the most remote areas of the world, wealth is measured by the amount of land and property that you own, right? And even today, real estate is still a good measure of wealth. But what's the problem with real estate and trying to achieve wealth through real estate? It's expensive. So you have to already be wealthy in today's terms to be able to afford the real estate. And for me, that was the problem to start with. I wanted to buy a house. I didn't have the money to buy a house. So how can you tell me that I need to buy a house to become wealthy, but I need to be wealthy to buy the house? Not quite making sense. Now the next key, what does this little man represent? The entrepreneur, up and onward, forward, ready to do business, start a business. And when you think about it, all the wealthiest people in the world today, who can you think of? Some names come up. Jeff Bezos founded Amazon. Who else? Elon Musk co-founded Tesla, co-founded SpaceX, also PayPal back in the day, multiple businesses. Who else? Jay-Z co-founded Rockefeller Music. Bill Gates co-founded Microsoft. Rihanna, and she's not wealthy from her music, she's wealthy from her businesses. Fenty Beauty, Savage X, $2 billion companies. All the wealthiest people in the world are entrepreneurs. Kim Kardashian, she's not wealthy for looking sexy, although that's part of it, but she's wealthy because of her businesses, Skims. All the wealthiest people in the world are entrepreneurs. And so entrepreneurship is arguably the most lucrative path to wealth. But what's the problem with it? It takes all your time. And it's not for everybody. It's, somebody said it up here, risky. There's a high failure rate in entrepreneurship. So real estate takes all your money. Entrepreneurship takes all your time. Which brings us to the third pillar, representing stock market investing in particular. And the thing that I like about stock market investing is that it doesn't require all your time or all your money, unless you decide to put all your time and money in it. But you can start investing with very little money and also very little time. So investing to me represents the easiest passage or the easiest gateway to wealth creation. And this can open up doors to you to fund the other two. So you can take the money that you make, starting small, with the little investments here and there, and reinvest them in real estate, and reinvest them in building your businesses. Now, what do the three things have in common? Ownership. And usually when I ask this question, everybody's stumped, but once again, I moved the slide too quick. What do real estate, entrepreneurship, and investing have in common? Ownership. Ownership of assets that are going to increase in value over time. So the one true key to wealth creation then is ownership. Ownership of assets that will increase in value over time. And so I realized that the real wealth equation and the real equation to comfort and all the things that we aspire to in life was just missing something in parentheses. So yes, you want to work hard, and yes, you want to save, but you have to multiply that by ownership. So work hard plus save times ownership equals wealth. Because what is ownership going to do? Ownership is going to take your money and give you back more money. So all you have to do is sit down and collect. Oh, you want me to do it again? Play some RDX. Who's it? Sit down, sit down, sit down. Sit down and collect. So I said, go girl, my knees don't start hurt me. Jeez, over 40 club. But let me tell you a story now. So I learned all of this in my mid-30s, and I'm like, yes, we're going to invest. And around that time, the Jamaica Stock Exchange was doing exceptionally well. Remember 2018, the JSE was the #1 performing stock exchange in the world. And so I said, well, I need to get me some of this money. Because if people are making 200% return, and as much as 1,000% return, 10x in their money in 1 year, well, I need to get in on that. Because work and save alone is not working for me. And so I decided to make my very first investment. And I said, next IPO come up, me that. And the next IPO came up in 2019, early. And me that. I did not read the prospectus. I did zero research. I just said it's an IPO, so it must hit. Because it was IPO craze at the time. I don't know if any of you here have been in the market, but every IPO was a hit. And so I said, next IPO come up, I'm in. No research. And I put my money in this IPO, and the IPO flop. The IPO flop, but let me say, it didn't lose money, it just never met no money. So it was kind of pointless. And it kind of just like, oh, it was very underwhelming performance. And so I said, okay, clearly I'm doing something wrong. I should have done my research. I had no idea what the company did. Let me find out what makes companies perform well. Why would one IPO be successful and another IPO not be as successful? Why does one company perform well? Why does another company not perform so well? And thus began my journey into real wealth creation. And as I learned, I told you I come from a long line of educators. As I learned, I taught. And so everything I learned, I started putting out on social media, and then you all started following me and calling me an expert. And that's how this journey began. So what are stocks? Let's start basic. What are stocks? Anybody? What is a stock? Yeah.
Like a share in a company, so you probably, I'm thinking, it's on my recollections. A share in a company, so sometimes the stock is even for $1, and you're buying to the company, so you own part of the company. Is that so?
Exactly. Yes. So it's your share of ownership in a company. It represents your share. So let's say I have a company, and I do. Let's use Money Media as an example. My company is privately owned. Myself and my husband, we own our company jointly. Now, if you wanted to invest in my company, you have to approach me personally and say, I would like to invest in your company. I'd like to own a share of your company, and then when you make a profit, we share the profit. When a company is publicly owned, you don't have to approach the owner personally. You can just go on the stock market and buy it. And that's what the stock market is for. That's why it was invented, to facilitate owners and buyers, or buyers and sellers, finding each other easily. So that you don't have to go know somebody who knows somebody to invest in companies. It is publicly traded. All the information is listed on the stock exchange. So how do you make money from the stock market? Well, there are two primary ways. There are other ways too, but these are the two main ways. One is capital appreciation. Now, we have a room of educators here. You've already proven that you're very smart people, which I knew before I came here anyway. What is capital appreciation? Capital is money. Appreciation means to go up in value. So the objective of trading on the stock market is exactly the same as any other type of trade, any other buy and sell business. The objective is to buy low and sell high. And that's how you make money on the stock market. if I buy these shoes, and let's say, anybody know Kanye West? You know he has a shoes named Yeezus, right? Yeezys. His Yeezys. Have you seen on TV when he launches the new Yeezys how there's a line around the block? Around and around the block for the new drop of the Yeezys. And let's say the Yeezys sell for $500 each. About that. But because there is a limited supply, and everybody wants it, and they might run out before everybody in the line gets a pair, what happens to the cost of the shoes? The cost goes up. So now if I want to resell those shoes, I can resell it for $1,000. I can resell for $1,500. And the same thing happens on the stock market. So when you hear all the IPO hype, right? And you hear IPO oversubscribed, what does that mean? It simply means that there were a lot of people standing up in line, waiting for that IPO to drop so that they could buy shares in the company, but there weren't enough shares to sell to everybody. And so what typically happens is that the price is gonna go up because there were more people who wanted to buy than shares available to sell. That's all that means. The other way that you make money on the stock market is through dividends. Anybody know what dividends is? What is it? It's your share of the company's profits, that's right. So when the company makes profits, they share it up amongst their shareholders, and you get a piece because you're a shareholder. So you make money when the price of the stock goes up, and you make money when the company makes money and they decide to pay out dividends. So now what is an IPO? I mentioned it earlier. You might have heard this term. And some of you might be embarrassed to ask me, well, Kalilah, what is an IPO, by the way? Very simple. Initial public offering. And all you have to do is look at the letters. What do these words mean? Initial means the first. Public is opposite of private. We spoke about public versus private companies. An offer is when I offer you something. I don't know how else to say it. So the first time a company offers its shares to the public. So before an IPO, a company is privately owned. After an IPO, a company becomes publicly owned, meaning anybody in this room, anybody perhaps in the world, can buy shares in this company. Now, how do you know what to invest in? One of the most common questions that I get all the time. How do you know? Anybody? How do you know what to invest in?
What I usually do is what is happening on the market. So I know for now real estate. So if I need to buy, I'm going to buy into real estate. IPO because I know that real estate is going up. So I am assuming or taking the risk that, all right, if I buy real estate, then the real estate IPO, then I'm going to make a profit, a huge profit. That's why.
All right, so she says real estate because it's going to go up. I heard somebody say research. I see in the back, yes, sir. How do you know what to invest in? Because even with real estate, not every real estate might make money. Depends on what you invest in. Depends on the area. There are different factors that you're going to look at to determine which real estate you're going to invest in, right?
You mentioned the research, but yes, the research.
In the back. Yes, sir. Can you come up to the mic? It's right here. So everybody can hear you. Come right here in the middle.
So what Fiona said is very good. But you got to look at the balance sheet. You got to look at the financials. You got to make sure that those are solid. And if those are solid, you have a better chance in the long run if you invest in that company.
Thank you. Excellent point. So here are some of the things that I look at. My acronym is GILF. And no, it does not mean MILF with a G. Stands for something else. Goals and risk tolerance, industry and economic trends, leadership, and financial performance, what our friend in the back just mentioned. So the very first thing you need to know before you start investing is what are your personal goals and risk tolerance. Why are you doing this? Why are you investing? What do you hope to get out of it? How soon do you need back the money? Is your purpose for investing to take your family on vacation, Christmas coming, which is in a few months' time? Or is your purpose for investing to send your child to university in, let's say, 5 years' time? Or is your purpose for investing to make sure that you have a solid nest egg when you retire in 20 years' time? Depending on what your purpose is, that's going to guide the type of investments that you are going to make. So do you need a short-term, a medium-term, or a long-term return? That's going to tell you how much risk you also need to make. You need to make a lot of money in a short time, you're going to have to take a high amount of risk. But if you don't need back that money for 20, 30 years, you can take a very conservative approach. You also need to know about yourself. What is your risk tolerance? How much risk are you willing to take? So in my house, my husband is a risk taker. He will bet it all. I am more moderate. So I'll take some risk, but I like to have something stashed over here just in case. So you have to know how much risk are you comfortable taking and what are your goals. So the first thing before you start investing is to know yourself and to know why you are in it. The next thing you want to look at is the iron guild, industry, and economic trends. What is happening around you? What's happening in the world? What's happening in Jamaica? What are the opportunities? So let's say I have this bottle of water, right? Let me borrow your water. So the water is water brand made by Wisynco. And you see this everywhere. Water is a very popular brand of water. But what if all of a sudden I start noticing at all the hotels, all the events I go to, all the schools, everywhere on the road, it's iCool running the place. Who makes iCool? Lasco. And so now I start thinking, maybe Wisynco is in trouble. Or maybe I should invest in Lasco, manufacturing. And I might say, well, I need to get some of those shares. If I see something happening in the economy, for example, right now, and let me ask you, bright people in the room, we see highways being built around the country. Maypen to Mandeville opened last year. St. Thomas, is it fully open now? What are the opportunities that new highways bring? Let me start thinking, yes, but think critically. Yes, it's business, but because of these new highways, what would you invest in? What is the investment opportunity that a new highway brings? She says Airbnb. What would you invest in? Somebody said tourism. I can't hear. Solar panels? Okay. What? I'm not seeing the direct connection with the highway with the solar panels. A gas station beside the highway. What service? Wrecker service, okay. But the one thing we know for sure is that all those real estate values are going to go up, right? All the property prices are going to go up. And with easier access to these communities, more people are going to start living there. Yes, that's the immediate opportunity. But if more people start living there, that also means that they're going to need services. They're going to need shops. They're going to need gas station. They're going to need schools. And if they need schools, that means they need teachers. And the teachers need training. And they're going to need hospitals, which means that they need doctors and nurses who also need training. And they're going to need daycares. for the children. And they're going to need parks. They're going to need recreational activities. There's so many different opportunities that come up because of a development such as a highway. And so you now, as a current or future investor, start thinking, what does this economic development mean for me as an investor? How can I take advantage of what is happening in the economy today? So you might want to invest directly in one of these areas, or you might want to invest in a company that is doing something in one of these areas, that is in a good position to take advantage of the economic trends and the industry trends. The next thing you want to look at is the L, the leadership. Who is in charge of this company? Do you trust them? That is a big, big deal. Because you can have the best idea for a business, you can have the best business plan, and everything can look pretty on paper, but when the CEO thief and lie, where does that leave the business? So do you trust the people who are leading this business, and do they have the capability to lead the business? And that's why when you look at an IPO prospectus, there's always a big part in there about leadership. Who is on the board? Who are the leaders? Make sure you read that part. And then the final part that you want to look at is financial performance, like our friend in the back said. How are they doing? Is this company making money? What are their plans to make more money? What are their plans to grow the business? Is this company in debt? And if they're in debt, is it good debt? Meaning, are they servicing their debt? And did they use that money to grow the business? Or is it just debt because they were wasteful? What is the company's financial performance? So let's review. GILF, goals and risk tolerance, industry and economic trends, leadership, and financial performance. Take a look at the monitor. I don't think the audio will play, but let's try. No audio. But what we said was, so we did a thing and we bought a house. So after this long journey and this struggle with being a financial failure, professional success, but a financial failure, not being able to achieve the dream of buying a home, not being able to have that security in owning the property where we live. Last year, my husband and I finally bought a house. And it felt like one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. It took such a long time to get here. My parents bought their first home in their 20s. I am now 41. My husband is 43. It took us a while to get there, but once we learned the new wealth strategies, really the old wealth strategies that were new to us, this goal became a whole lot easier. We were able to multiply the fruits of our hard work and savings through owning assets that appreciate in time. We started owning stocks. I now own my own business, and now we have the third piece of the equation, which is real estate, property ownership. And I wouldn't say this is the end of the story. I wouldn't say the story has a happy ending, because this is not the ending, this is just the beginning. We are on our way to being wealthy. We are on our way to being comfortable. And I cannot ask for more in this life. I want to thank you so much for listening to me today. And I hope you take the lessons from this presentation and implement them so that we can all be what? Wealthy and comfortable. So let me hear you say, let's get this money.